Blue Jays, we waited for somebody to take their money, and all of a sudden, three guys have done so. Buck Martinez does all their games. Let's get some thoughts, of course, on the Blue Jay acquisitions here in the last 24 hours. Buck, it's a pleasure. It's great to have you with us here. Well, we waited. We wondered who was going to jump in. It wasn't LeMahieu, maybe it'd not be Bauer, but we thought somebody eventually would. Springer starts, Yates, and then, of course, now Brantley. Toronto in business here in 2021. Give me your overall thoughts here last couple days of Blue Jays scenarios. Go ahead.
Well, Chris, all throughout the offseason, Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro said the Blue Jays are going to make a splash, and boy, have they ever. It probably didn't come when the fans wanted it to come, but I think the end results are pretty terrific. You get two of the best character guys in all of baseball in Springer and in Michael Brantley, and obviously they both have a lot of postseason experience. Springer's played in 63 postseason games, and Brantley has hit nearly 300 in his postseason experience. Michael Brantley doesn't get the credit he deserves for being a great hitter. He's 12th on the active list of batting average. He's got a .297 career average, and he's a great hitter. And he's only 33 years old. You'd think that he might be a little bit older than that, given the fact he's been around a while, but it's a great addition to this ball club. And, they've talked about it since Shapiro and Atkins took over. They want to build a culture of character in the clubhouse and create great teammates, and they've done that.
They sure have. I'd be a little worried, Brantley, defensively at that age on that surface. What's your take on that for a sec? Let me hear.
Well, you know what? It's going to be interesting. And I don't know that Vladdy's going to end up playing third base. We saw him there last year, and he's supposed to have lost weight and everything. But, he might be better off to go back to first base, get comfortable there, and and then free up his mind so he can hit to the ability we believe he can hit. But Gurriel's a great hitter. Everybody's trying to figure out how they're going to make this lineup work right now. And I know Charlie Montoya's not complaining about having too many good players, so they'll make it work. And it might bode for the fact that down the road there's going to be some kind of trade, because when you look at all of the players they have now, Bichette and Gurriel and Vladdy and Biggio, and they're just a very good young team. And I think bringing in two experienced veterans, and, Teoscar did a tremendous job of elevating his game last year, and he was rewarded with a nice contract. But I think we heard it from the team last year, especially from Bichette and Biggio and Vladdy. We need a grown-up in the room. And now they've signed two real grown-up, real professional players in Springer and Brantley.
Is Brantley going to be the full-time DH? Will he play a little left field, Buck? What are they going to do with him from an offensive standpoint, position-wise? Let me hear.
It's so difficult to predict at this point. I mean, here we are in the middle of January, and they haven't even gotten to spring training yet. But, I think until we see the end product at the end of spring training, will we really have a good idea of what's going to happen with this team. But now, of course, with Gurriel, Grichuk, and Teoscar already in place in the outfield, then you bring in two more outfielders in Springer and Brantley. There's an excess. There's a surplus. So maybe that surplus turns into a third baseman or another starting pitcher, because there's a lot of talk about some pending trade around baseball, and the Blue Jays now all of a sudden have a surplus, including a very deep, talented minor league system.
Interesting. Okay, now Yates helps the bullpen. Closer, thoughts on him for a sec, Buck? That was a need that needed to be fulfilled. What can you tell me there? Go ahead.
Well, in 18 and 19, Kirby was probably the best reliever in all of baseball. He's got a wicked splitter, and he throws hard, and he had bone chips removed. And, that's obviously not as serious as Tommy John surgery. He had Tommy John surgery in his amateur career. But boy, oh boy, he's when he is on, he's about 20 hits per innings fewer than pitches. And he's really a tough pitcher. So, you hope that he bounces back. But he's a veteran, and Tyler Chatwood's the same way. Guys that bring depth into the organization in the bullpen with some pretty good arms, including Jordan Romano and Anthony Kay and Ryan Barucki, Thomas Hatch, all those young guys that stepped up last year for the Blue Jays.
All right, rotation. We know Ryu's there, Pearson's there. We get that, but they could use a couple of more starters. Tanner O'Rourke, Chatwood, these are not playoff pitchers in big spots. They can use another starter there. They have the excess outfielders maybe to get one. Let me get your thoughts on that for a sec. Take it away.
Yeah. I mean, this is an area of need. There's no question about it. Robbie Ray threw well at the end of the season after the trade. Ross Stripling is kind of a swing guy that can start for you. You know, I think there's another kind of unknown guy that's lurking in the woods, and that's Trent Thornton. He had bone chips taken out of his elbow last year, missed the season. So I think he's going to come back and anxious to make a bid for that rotation. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Blue Jays had another starter or two before the start of spring training.
And speaking of which, you know, we wondered whether Dunedin, looks like it probably will start the year there, I'm assuming, would deter some of these free agents, and at least in the last 24 hours, it did not. Springer's on his way there, Brantley too, and now Yates. So the idea of Dunedin being a little bit of a problem to start the year for a guy who wants to sign a long-term deal with the franchise, that did not come into play here with these three. Your take on that?
Yeah, you know, money always talks, Chris. And obviously, when you sign for 6 years, as Springer did, and 3 years as Brantley, you figure to be back at Rogers Center. They did a nice job in renovating the stadium in Dunedin, but it's not a major league ballpark by any means. You know, if I were going to make the decision, I would play day games at the start of the season if you have to play in Dunedin, because the lights, although they've been upgraded, they're still low. They're minor league standard. They're not high. And when the major league hitters hit the high fly balls, they go beyond the height of the lights and they will be lost at nighttime. So I might lean toward day games early in the season in Dunedin when the weather is spectacular, and play those games early on as day games, because I think nighttime games will be a challenge in that ballpark.
That's an excellent point. Well done, Buck. You know, we will chat all year. Thanks for a few minutes. Keep up the good work. Appreciate you coming on today.
All right, Chris. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Blue